So I'm going to speak to some of the resources that are available to you as a candidate for the CPA exam. So AICPA.org/CPA exam. It's a wealth of information, not least of which is the blueprints that Mike was just talking to. You can also find out if you're in the process, score release dates, pass rates, general announcements. And if you wanted to learn more about things like how the exam is scored, this is where you would go. There's also a great place on this website where you can actually sign up to hear information from us. So you would be on our mailing list if we have announcements, or if we're doing any research. Honestly, sometimes we do reach out to people just for their feedback on various things, and being able to use that information is hugely valuable to us. So if you wanted to sign up for more information, you could do that on this website. But one of the things that is also incredibly valuable is the sample test. So the sample test for the CPA exam is really like being able to take a test drive of the exam software, the format and the functionality, the types of questions that you're going to see on the exam. One thing that's incredibly important is that you don't get to the Prometric test center on exam day and have to learn about the exam software. You want to be able to go into the Prometric test center and focus on the content and making sure that you're answering the questions to the best of your ability. You don't want to be learning about, what tools are available to me, how do I use the search engine, that kind of thing. So this screenshot right now is actually a screenshot from the sample test on the website. It's from the audit section. And this is a task-based simulation. So effectively, a task-based simulation is going to be a number of different questions that you're answering, all in relation to a whole bunch of different information. So you could be provided emails. In this particular one, it's inventory related. So you're getting a perpetual inventory listing, an inventory count sheet, a warehouse map, things like that. But it could be a general ledger, a trial balance. It could be tax reports if you're doing the reg section. It could be various different ratios or formulas that you're having to use to answer questions. But all of the questions you're answering are going to relate to that information. So on the left-hand side of the screen with a task-based simulation, you're always going to have the questions and the exhibits, as you can see the links to them at the top. And on the right-hand side of the screen, you're always going to have a workspace where you can, put your exhibits. If you wanted to use the search engine, which is at the top in the toolbar, you can see AuthLit. That's where you would go to access the standards, so the accounting standards, the audit standards, the internal revenue code. All of that stuff's going to be in there. It's important to note that when you're taking this sample test, so on the website, Excel is not going to actually be available in the sample test. So if you were to click on that Excel button, a pop-up's going to come up saying, hey, if you were in the real exam, you would have Excel. But since this is, web-based and it's a sample test, if you wanted to use a spreadsheet, just use your own Excel or Google Sheets or whatever you use. And the AuthLit search engine within the sample test is actually only going to be a subset. So if you go in there, all of the standards won't be there. It'll just be a subset of the standards, really the ones that you need to answer the research question that is in the sample test. Another really cool tool is Help. Help will be available to you when you're in the actual exam as well as on the sample test. But basically, if you have any questions about how something works in the exam, how do I answer a question? How do I use the authoritative literature search engine? You can go to the help file and that information is going to be in there. The multiple choice questions obviously look a little bit differently. They're just going to be in the center of the screen. You don't have the authoritative literature available to you in there. But as I mentioned, the sample test is just such a valuable tool to be able to go to so that when you go into the Prometric Test Center, you're comfortable with what the exam is going to look like and you can focus on the questions. This Way to CPA is a website that's effectively for young people that are either thinking about becoming a US licensed CPA or already in the pathway. It's going to give you information about all the different elements of the license, but it's also got neat features like, a day in the life of. So various different people that are US licensed CPAs, and they talk us through like, this is what my life looks like in my job. We're actually in the process of collecting a number of testimonials from candidates that have sat and taken the exam in India and are working in companies in India, and we're going to be hopefully adding them to the website soon too, so you can get a feel for what people in India are doing with their US CPA. NASBER has a wealth of information. Obviously, they deal with everything related to the jurisdictions. As I mentioned, there is a page for each jurisdiction if you wanted to learn more. And actually it's this particular page. So if you go to nasba.org/CPA exam, if you were to scroll down, there's a link for every single jurisdiction that you can click on and find out more. This is where you can go to get that candidate bulletin too. You can actually see it on the screen in the bottom right-hand corner. You would just click on that and that bulletin will open up. I just noticed there's a question, is there an option to move to another jurisdiction later on? Yes, you can. There is reciprocity if you go through one jurisdiction, as long as you meet the requirements of the other jurisdiction, you can transfer. If you don't meet the requirements of the other jurisdiction, you will have to make up the difference. But generally, mobility is the thing. Prometric website. This is where you're going to go to schedule your exam. So once you've got your notice to schedule, one thing I always say is make sure you know how to get to the Prometric test center. Don't wait until the day of your exam to, find out how to get there. Make sure you maybe do a dry run. So like the day before, actually drive to the Prometric test center or use the public transportation that you're going to use to get there, so that you know exactly how to get there and how long it's going to take. You don't want to be late for your exam because you might not be able to take it. But Prometric actually has a test drive feature as well. If you see in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, it says schedule your test drive. So you can actually go and make an appointment with Prometric to go and instead of taking your exam, but while you're preparing, you can go in there and they'll run you through the whole check-in process so you know what to expect on your exam day as well. We have a LinkedIn group. So if you go onto LinkedIn and search CPA exam candidate, that's a great resource. We share announcements, insights, we ask questions, we ask poll questions. It's a nice discussion forum for people. Next Stop CPA, this is a podcast that was actually put together by the exams team. There are various different episodes. You can get that wherever you might subscribe to podcasts. And then This Way to CPA, the website I mentioned previously, actually has a YouTube channel as well with a number of different videos that are incredibly useful to watch. And then you can become an AICPA member. Right now, the majority of you would be eligible for student membership, which is actually free. You will get various different sources of information. Once you're in the pipeline to become a US licensed CPA, you can get candidate membership, which at this point does cost money. But one thing that's really important is right now they're really working on the value proposition for that to make sure that you're getting a great return on your money. They're investigating various different things right now, like potential forums, Facebook groups specific to CPA candidate members so that you guys can all interact with each other. So they really are making sure that you're going to get value for your money. One question I see is if a change is made to the syllabus, so that would be the blueprint, how long are you eligible? We actually always make sure that we release our blueprints 6 months in advance of when they become effective. So it tends to be on a January 1st or July 1st that we'll release a new blueprint. So for example, if we released a blueprint on July 1st of year 1, it would be effective January 1st of year 2. So we'll always do it 6 months generally in advance, and it will say on the blueprint what the effective date it is. The tuition providers, learning providers are always very well aware of when we're going to make changes. So they will always make sure that depending on when you're testing, that you're getting the right information from them too. So it shouldn't be something that you have to particularly worry about. And that is it for